Yeah, welcome back to the M365 FM podcast to show where we deep dive into Microsoft technologies with experts building real-world solutions every day. Today we are talking about one of the hottest topics in modern IT infrastructure, virtual desktops. Organizations are rethinking how employees access applications and data. Remote work is here to stay. I hope security requirements continue to increase and AI-powered PCs are being to reshape endpoint computing. But with Microsoft's growing portfolio, including Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Cloud PCs, Microsoft Intune, Microsoft Entra ID, and Microsoft 365, many organizations struggle to understand which solution accurately fit their business. Joining me today are two people who spend their days designing exactly these environments. Dieter Campellas and Dominic Verham are cloud solution architects specialized in Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. Today, we are helped organizations design, migrate, and optimize virtual desktop environments across hybrid and cloud infrastructure. Today, we separate marketing from reality, discuss architecture, discussion costs, optimizing security, AI, Copilot, Windows 365 frontline, disaster recovery, automation, and the next 5 years desktop computing might look. Dieter and Dominic, welcome to the M365 podcast.
Thank you for
Hi,
having us.
everyone.
So, yeah, can you tell us about a little bit about yourself and how did you get into the Microsoft infrastructure topic?
Should I start?
Yeah.
So, yes, my name is Dieter. I'm a cloud solutions architect. I've been in the VDI space for, I think, over 12 years. Started back in Citrix, did a lot of RDS deployments as well. Windows Virtual Desktop, Azure Virtual Desktop, now Windows 365, and so came along Intune. Remote app was something that I was always very passionate about. The first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is magic. So that's how I transitioned to the VDI space. And then a couple of years ago, I was recognized for all my effort, and I got the Microsoft MVP award for the both categories.
Yeah, congratulations.
Very cool. My name is Dominic Vham. I am probably active in computing and technology for about 20 plus years now. I started out with Windows Server operating systems and VMware, Citrix, a little bit of REST and Ivanti products on the side. And yeah, I think about 10 years ago, I slowly transitioned to everything that impacts the local workspace. I really like the idea of virtual desktops, so I was really interested in remote desktop services going over to AVD. And of course, when Windows 365 came out, I was really into Windows 365, and I just started my journey of sharing all that knowledge via blogs and Windows 365 community and such. Yeah, and I got to know a lot of cool people in the tech community as well. And even with Dito, of course, you can find us presenting at various communities together about just this topic.
Yeah. So, Dieter, how would you explain A4D to someone new?
How I would explain AVD to someone new? It's like a virtual computer running in the cloud that you can access from anywhere.
Mm.
Does that fit? I think that
Yeah.
fits the name actually. And if I would extend that towards Windows 365, just what's the difference between both of them? AVD is for the infra-focused people who like to customize a lot of things themselves, who like to build a lot of things themselves, while Windows 365 is also a virtual desktop, accessible from anywhere, but more focused towards end-user experience and keeping things simple.
Okay. And Dominic, what did you think? Why Microsoft build it?
Which one, AVD or Windows 365?
Oh, you can. Oh, but let us take both.
Both, both. Okay, I think it's more of Microsoft taking more of the products to the cloud, of course, into Azure. The remote desktop services was already a thing, so we could already give out virtual desktops to our end users. AVD just implements a lot of really cool features with conditional access, saying in gallery images and such, and all that comes into play. But if you're going to deploy AVD, there's just a lot of technical knowledge that you need to have. And if you look at Windows 365, that's just all of the goodness that AVD brings, but it's made really simple. If you have some hands-on Intune experience, then you're probably already good to go with deploying Windows 365 Cloud PCs, and that's really amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also think that to add on that, like Windows Virtual Desktop, it existed for a while ago, a while before Windows 365 was a thing. And then COVID hit us, and I think that was like a big push for Microsoft to start like heavily investing on Windows 365 because like the whole world was looking for a solution to access their work resources from anywhere. And I think that caused a big shift towards those platforms as well.
Okay. And what would, when we talk about Azure Virtual Desktop, what problem does it solve? What will you say to your customer?
I would say if you're currently like a shop who is doing a lot of on-prem stuff, you will rely on a VPN solution. I know Microsoft has sort of similar solutions nowadays as well, but one of the true fortes of both those platforms is access your resources using secure conditional access without the need to manage a VPN. Also, if you deploy those virtual desktop solutions on-prem or you host them yourself, you're responsible for maintaining the gateway, the license. The licensing is still a requirement, of course, but the gateway and all that vulnerabilities that often come up with third-party vendors, you need to be on top of it. You need to patch it very soon, very quickly. And I think with Windows 365 and AVD, Microsoft does a very good job in taking care of that for you.
Mm.
A lot more manpower than we have at our company.
That's a really good answer, but can I add on top of that, because I just learned recently, and this is probably especially for the Dutchies, if Dutch people watch this, there's actually a law in the Netherlands. It's called the Wet DBA. And it basically says if you are self-employed, you're going to work for a company, then that company cannot provide tools for you to work on, physical tools. So you need to have your own desktop to work from. And how cool is it that you can just use your own desktop to connect into that virtual desktop that is managed and maintained by the company that you're working for, and then you're able to perform your work that way. So it also solves business needs.
Yeah. I'm also on the GABA community, so I hope some people from Netherlands listen.
But I can imagine that it also holds true for other companies, for other countries. But I'm unsure, but it's especially true for the Netherlands. So.
Yeah, Azure Virtual Desktop has some core components. I think we can start with data. I say a short walkthrough to the core components, and then we switch. The first start with data. What are host pools?
A host pool is like a combination of different hosts. So a host, or better called a session host, is like a virtual machine where all your users or single user or multi-users, you have both those flavors in AVD, will log on to. So they do their work on those machines, and a host pool is a combination of those hosts. Most of the time you build the host pools for a specific purpose. But yeah, that's what a host pool is.
Yeah, and Dominic, what's the session host?
A session host, you can think about that as a virtual machine running in Azure primarily, but nowadays you can also run it locally. And that's where your users actually sign into. So that provides their work, the desktop.
And what does the workspace mean?
A workspace, it's like a logical combination of different application groups. So like you can configure a desktop to be an application group. You can configure a set of remote app applications, and a workspace can combine multiple of those application groups just to visualize it together for an end user.
And I can already imagine the next question. What's an application group?
Yeah.
Yes! Well, an application group is basically where you determine if you're going to deploy a full desktop or specific applications to end users.
Yeah, and then I have on my research finding I never heard before is FSLogix. You know what is this?
I don't talk about FSLogix. No. If you ask me, like the biggest issue that companies face with virtual desktop solutions in general are profile management, or is profile management. Back in the days with Citrix and stuff, profiles always are a big issue. And FSLogix is like basically the modern solution from Microsoft to provide a profile management solution. And back in the days on RDS, they had like user profile disks, and they acquired FSLogix because FSLogix was a way better solution than UPDs back in the day were. And FSLogix to this day is still being used on AVD, but also on other platforms as well. With Windows 365, Microsoft is taking another turn, and because they're with Windows 365, they're more looking at like a managed platform. So in Windows 365, if you use like the Flex shared mode, you can not use FSLogix, but it's like an other profile management solution, and it's called User Experience Sync. So both of these solutions are for profile management, but they serve a different platform.
Yeah, and then
really
we have
the question why you would actually implement something like FSLogix for the people who don't know it is especially with multi-session operating systems that multiple people sign into that same server, if you will, that session host. But if you have a pooled host pool that we discussed earlier, then on Monday you can go with server 1, and on Tuesday you go with server 73, for example. And the last thing that you want to need is to configure all of these applications again with the first runs, etc. So with FSLogix in place, it just gathers all of those settings, and it doesn't matter to which server that you're signing into, your settings will basically follow the end user.
And there are also Azure files and Azure NetApp files. Who will explore the first one and the second one?
So they're basically serving the same purpose. I think nowadays you have also Azure NetApp files that use Azure files in the backend, but that's specifically a configuration that you need to do with the NetApp files. It's basically just a location where you deploy like a storage account to host the share that will host the profiles that you use for FSLogix. That's basically it. And if you need a lot of performance, or you use profiles that require accessing a lot of small files for specific applications, a lot of read and write actions to, like I said, small files especially, you need a lot of IOPS, then Azure NetApp files might be the better solution here.
And even cost effective, right? If you have a demand for a large storage, then you might want to compare, is Azure files still the way to go, or would you like to go with NetApp files to just see what it does and get the correct solution in place?
Yeah. The very important here to know as well is that the IOPS that you get are also dependent on the storage that you choose. So the higher your storage volume is, the more IOPS that you will get. So if you do proof of concept, for example, on Azure files, and you start with a very small volume, yeah, performance will of course be not as good as if you deploy a very, very big volume. But yeah, during a proof of concept, most of the time you only have like a couple of people connecting and testing. So it's not that important most of the time at that stage in the project.
Yeah, and then we have also Microsoft Entra ID and Intune. Who will take what?
Well, Entra ID is, of course, the identity provider. So that's where your user account will live. And if you connect your local desktop or your Cloud PC to an identity provider to manage it, of course, then that's Entra ID for you. That's also where conditional accessing lives and all of that good stuff. But if you look at Microsoft Intune, that's your management engine right there. So that actually makes use of an Autopilot to get all of the configuration into the desktop that you need. And it could be device configuration profiles where you put all of the settings right in there. It also monitors for compliance, with device compliance policies. But you can also put in some apps, corporate applications, and deploy those at scale to all of those connected desktops. And it doesn't matter if that's Cloud PCs or physical desktops, and nowadays even personal host pools and AVD.
Yeah. And now we have a lot of, I think, puzzle pieces, how we fit this together to get a whole image.
To have what?
Yeah, how we fit all these puzzle pieces together to get the whole image.
So the architecture in total, you mean?
Yeah.
How
I
would
think that's I think there's a number of ways to go about this, right? So first, my advice would be, if I interpret the question right, I would just decide if you want to go with AVD or Windows 365. So just decide the right solution for your business use case. Looking at the image that you're using, Windows 11, and just layering your applications on it, there are a couple of ways to do so. So first off, if you're going Windows 365 or AVD, you could make use of gallery images, and those are already optimized by Microsoft, so that there are no unnecessary background processes going on, and you can just either layer on additional applications into that image, so people get their applications that way, or you can go with MSIX, App Attach, or use a third-party solution. Liquidware, for example, with FlexApp is a really good solution that also bubbles applications. You can just inject it in there. So there's just numerous ways to go about this. My personal preference wouldn't be to go for a golden image, because if you go like a golden image, a custom image, if you will, then you just need to have an additional virtual machine in Azure and get all of the, your operating system in there, your updates in there, then get all of your applications and customizations in there. But you also need to be aware of all the customization of optimizing that image. Still need to capture that one and deploy it once that's configured. So yes, you can do so, but you need to be aware of the extra work that you're taking on, and especially the responsibility of keeping it up to date over time. So that's something you need to be aware of.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I misunderstood the question, but it's like Dominic said, the golden images are, in my opinion, a thing of the past. You can still use in combination with AVD. Windows 365 supports it as well. So for the companies that rely on those legacy things, it's still possible. But I think there are more modern solutions to deploy updates, to deploy applications to a certain image. Everything starts with an image, but if you have to choose between a custom golden image or the Microsoft provided Windows 11 image, I would always choose for the Windows 11 image if the use cases allow it.
But if I can still touch base on that one, because this is really rare, because now we're saying you shouldn't do this. But if you're going that way, there's a really cool solution by Microsoft, which is using custom image templates. If you're going that route, then Microsoft actually helps you with that tool, with just getting all of your configuration in there, and it actually build that golden image for you. So it uses Azure Image Builder, it gets that image in there, does all of the customizations for you, it captures it, and then you can start using it on either Windows 365 or AVD.
Yeah. So let us try something a little side. So, I give you the role, the personal desktop guy, and Dominic, you are the pool session host. So let's try sell every product to each other.
Okay, well, if I'm the pooled session guy, the pooled host pool guy, then of course I'm going to win, because we're talking AVD. And if you're going to personal desktops and AVD, that's quite cost expensive, and we all like to keep some money in our pocket, so it's easy. I win. Yes, love it.
On my end, it's easy as well. Like personal desktops, you don't have any noisy neighbors. If you, for example, have 20 people on a single host and one person opens Power BI, the whole host goes down. Like 20 people are impacted by then. And if you go single session, single desktop, personal desktop, you have a small persistent environment. I connect to the same VM every time. I can do whatever I want on it, and it's my machine, and no one else has to connect with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then yeah, we have learned a lot about AVD, but there's yeah, I think a little bit newer product. They call it Windows 365, and I think yeah, I'm also many people a little bit confused about this. So let's clear that up. What exactly is Windows 365, and how is it different? What did you think?
That's a really good question. If you look at Azure Virtual Desktop, because that's what we're comparing to, you need to think about that as managing an entire platform. So everything from storage to the virtual machines to security networking, everything that comes into play, right? So you're looking at platform as a service, if you will. With Windows 365, that's a service on its own, and it really simplifies the way that you can deliver those virtual desktops to your end users. And it does that by basically it uses Intune to manage all of those settings on those cloud PCs. And it still uses Entra for identity things. And it's just a lot more easy to implement. And there's a couple of SKUs, a couple of solutions that you can have a look at. Especially in the US, there's government, especially for government agencies, but there's also business that's just really just ready to use Cloud PC. You just deploy it, and there's not much configuration that you should want to apply to it because can still manage it a little bit via Intune, but not too much. Enterprise is probably the full-fledged Cloud PC experience that you can deploy to your end users. And that's more of a per user per month or per user per year type of license that you have going on. But if you don't want to use that, that's too big of a commitment. You can still use a concurrency-based licensing scheme. Concurrency means, looking at a department of like 30 users, but only 10 users sign in maximum at the same time. Then your concurrency is set at 10. And then you can actually use Windows 365 Frontline, which is now called Flex, by the way. You can implement that and save a lot on cost for that. So there's just a lot of things that you can use Windows 365 for, even for BCDR purposes. There's Windows 365 Reserves SKU out at the moment. And that just solves the issue. Like you have a person who just is on the road a lot, but he or she forgot their personal laptop, or it just breaks down while they're abroad. Then how cool is it that you can just use that SKU, assign it to that end user, and it deploys that reserved cloud PC so they can work on it. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that you could use Windows 365 for.
Yeah, so it's also important to note that for Azure Virtual Desktop, you need that specific VDI skill set, while for Windows 365, most of the time, if you have someone managing those physical endpoints using Intune, they can do a full setup of Windows 365 in like 30 minutes to an hour without having any prior knowledge of it. It's very fast.
It's crazy, right? 30 minutes of deploying a VDI solution within your company. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I have looked and you say before Cloud PC. How does the Cloud PC work? Especially when I look at Reddit, there are five topics. There's identity, storage, performance, persistent, and licensing. Yeah, also a topic. How does these work?
It's a little bit like Dominic explained already. With Windows 365, Microsoft takes care of all the hosting stuff for you, so all the storage in the backend. It's all managed by Microsoft. You don't have to worry about it, while with AVD you do. With Windows 365, just buy a license, add it to a group basically, and Cloud PCs are provisioned automatically.
It really is that simple.
Yeah, it is.
And I kind of like that Microsoft even continues down this simplicity path, right? Looking at networking, for example, if you're going to do AVD, then there's just a networking design that you need to be aware of and secure your solution, right? With Windows 365, of course, you can do something that's called an ANC. So you still can make use of a VNet with a subnet and just deploy your Cloud PCs within that subnet, but it's not really required, right? So if you don't need to connect to your existing corporate network, then you can also make use of a Microsoft hosted network. And that's just really simple in the provisioning policy. Just hit that button, and that's all there is to the networking part of it. Microsoft just takes care of everything for you. And you still have the option to put in a point-to-site VPN and still able to be connected to your corporate network. So it's really simplicity and cost, with licensing models. That's what I just referred to.
And Mirko, you can imagine this. So you are interested in like a virtual desktop, and you come to us and you ask about Azure Virtual Desktop, for example. You say, hey, I want Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365. And we start talking to you about AVD, and the discussion quickly shifts away from AVD towards an Azure landing zone. And you're like, hey, I have nothing on Azure yet, or I just did some point and click on Azure, but it's not really governed well. And then you realize, okay, before I can deploy AVD, I need a fully featured Azure landing zone. It will cost additional consultancy, additional money, additional resources, not related to AVD, but required to use AVD. And then with Windows 365, I can just tell you, hey, you want a virtual desktop? Here you go. No Azure requirements. Oh, you have Azure? We can tie into Azure, like Dominic said, but it's not a requirement at all.
And I thinking I pay for the licensing, and I also pay, I think, for a special part of performance, like the CPU or on the RAM for computing or something, and then I pay extra for the storage, right?
No. For Windows 365, you pay a license, and the license exists of a combination of CPU, memory, and disk space. So all those resources are included in the cost. So you have, for example, a basic license with 4 CPU, 16 gigs of memory, with I think 256 gigs of storage. But you have more expensive licenses as well with 8 CPU. I think nowadays it goes up high in memory amounts already, 64 gigs or more, and I think up to 2 terabytes of disk storage that you can get nowadays. And it's just a single flat license fee. So for a customer, it has the advantage that they know upfront we're going to pay this, and it won't exceed that amount of money. While with AVD, it's consumption based. So another billing model.
So I pay only a monthly price and don't have to care.
Yes, you don't have to care. Yeah, you just commit to a certain amount, and if you stay within that amount of users, of course, that amount of Cloud PCs, your bill won't change.
Yeah. And if you compare that to AVD, for example, because that's really cool to highlight those differences. If you're going to build AVD, that's probably a single site when you start. So all of these components, they have like runtime costs. You pay as you go. But you still need to take care of make an estimate of the network bandwidth that you consume, the data that is sent. With Windows 365, that's also part of the licensing itself. And then there's also BCDR, right? What happens if something fails, or region isn't available at that point, or data center isn't available? Then you probably need to build it twice. And with Windows 365, you can even simplify that with just looking at one of those BCDR add-ons as well. So
yes.
Yeah.
And now that we're at licensing, we can also address like the big elephant in the room. So with AVD, you have a lot of options and flexibility to do cost optimization. And that's not possible with Windows 365 Enterprise or Flex Dedicated. You now have Flex Shared, which provides a lot of cost efficiency, but like powering down VMs to save costs, that's not possible with Windows 365. The downside is you need that skill set to configure everything. Microsoft provides some options out of the box nowadays as well. But still, you need to know what you're dealing with and what you're doing. And depending on the business case or the use case that you have for your virtual desktops, for example, a user that uses AutoCAD that launches like a rendering job that takes like 16 hours to complete, it's very hard to shut down those VMs. So cost-wise, there won't be a lot to save. So with AVD, cost optimization is possible if you know what you're doing, you have the right skill set, and with Windows 365, just, hey, doesn't matter what you do on it, this is what you pay, and no other worries for you.
Yeah, and they have also, I see an option at Microsoft that you can enable GPUs. So who needed gamer or engineers, CAD, I don't know, AI developer, for who is this option?
So the GPUs are indeed on the expensive side, let's say it as it is. But if you compare if you look at what it's meant for, it's not for gaming purposes, not at all. So if you compare it with a regular gaming PC, and that's what I see when I talk with customers, that's what they all do. So they compare it with a regular desktop or a laptop that they can hand out to their employee to do their work on. But that's not what it's meant for. If you look at companies who invest like a lot, I can say a lot of money in GPU power for data centers, for their own data centers. It requires a lot of expensive licenses to run those GPUs in those data centers as well. And if you then look at the cost of Windows 365 with GPUs, it's reasonably and fairly priced. It's still expensive, but that's why I say you have to look at the use cases. Also, those GPUs in your own data centers, after X amount of time, they're end of life, you have to replace them. And we all know the current cost of hardware is rather expensive. You have to find a maintenance window where you can replace everything. And with Windows 365, those GPUs, it's in the price, but Microsoft takes care of all the backend stuff for you. AVD has GPU options as well, but it's not. I don't often compare them one to one because I think, in my opinion, they fit a little different use case. Yes.
I think you actually deployed Windows 365 Cloud PCs with GPU at your customer base, right? What was the use case there? What did you use it for? An application?
Yes. So it was a company that did like a lot of rendering for buildings and like landscapes. And they just said, hey, they actually came to us for AVD and they said, hey, we want AVD, we want GPU power. Can you help us? I was like, yes, I can definitely do that. And then we did like a calculation and we compared AVD with Windows 365. I think it was the mid-tier, the super SKU. And the conclusion there was that because the render jobs took such a long time to run, we weren't able to shut down the VMs, and the price difference between the two was very limited. So I think in the end, the monthly recurring cost for AVD was still a little bit cheaper, but that's excluding all the operational costs and the setup cost, of course. And because of the setup cost of Windows 365 was so cheap in comparison with the one for AVD, they went with Windows 365 because by the time we would make up for that price difference for the project, the AVD environment was up for renewal or re-architecture anyway. So.
Yeah. Awesome. And I had a Copilot Plus laptop. It's broken after today. So the guarantee. So I need a new one. So if anyone hardware supplier hear this, I need a new one. But yeah. Also on Windows 365, there's also Copilot Plus. What is that?
Well, with Windows, if you look at Copilot Plus, right? So there's actually like a PC, but not every PC is a Copilot Plus PC. Why is that? Because there are a couple of requirements that that hardware needs to fulfill in order to be considered as a Copilot Plus PC. One of the things is like it needs an NPU with a minimum amount of performance. I think it was for 40 teraflops or something like that. But if that's on the chip itself, then it supports a couple of AI features on Windows 11. So the really cool thing is, I think I actually wrote a blog post on that one before. And at the time, there were 18 AI features out there that you could use once you have a physical Copilot Plus PC. I just checked it if it's still 80. Now I counted 17, so I don't know where that one went, but yeah, it's 70 now. But you're right. Even with Windows 365 at this point, you can make them AI enabled as part of the Frontier program, as Microsoft calls it. And basically, what happens then is you don't get a cloud PC that's running on a system that has a local MPU install of it. It's not sharing the one or using the one that you're connecting from, the local one that you're connecting from. Instead, it makes use of the hybrid compute framework. And basically what happens is, if you look at all of those layers, what happens, it just offloads all of these AI tasks via that Windows Cloud, hybrid compute framework, and then it just performs those tasks. And I think it's using GPUs in the backend.
Yeah, but let's now think about AVD versus Windows 365. I think for you it's better to sell AVD because there's more consulting. But imagine you're advising a CIO. How should he decide what parts will you look at the company?
So it's not really true that we make more money from selling AVD. It's a different project, of course. So with AVD, you have a lot of things included in Azure, and of course, if we have to set up a full Azure landing zone, that's consultancy time, and companies pay for that. So in that sense, it seems a logical thing to do for an MSP. But if you look at like Windows 365, you also rely on Intune, and we also still see a lot of companies that aren't yet there with their Intune deployments. So they are lacking like they probably, or most of the time, set it up like 10 years ago, if it even existed back then. And they didn't maintain it. And there are so many new features introduced by Microsoft and in Microsoft Intune that it's also part of a Windows 365 project to look at the Intune setup.
True.
Yeah. Okay.
So what would you advise a CIO, for example?
But makes it also sense, I think, run both in the company?
Yes, definitely. So it's not really one or the other. We see a lot of companies going with both platforms, but in my opinion, if you go with Windows 365, you can get rid of all the maintenance and operational costs and really save that money that is promised with Windows 365. While if you're still maintaining like that AVD environment or VDI environment in general, the benefits will be smaller because you're still managing golden images, you're still managing app attach, you're still managing those profile issues. So yeah.
Yeah, especially when what a hot topic, or what a topic I often hear when we talk about AVD or Microsoft 365, it's security. A lot of companies think, oh, that's not, especially in the Corona times, as they started, a lot of companies, they say, oh, that's not secure. So there we have also a lot of topics like conditional access, defender for endpoint. Can you a little bit take us into these topics?
Yeah, I think we can just cover another hour with that because we have a really cool session on that as well. Yeah, so if you look at that, right, of course, if you're running AVD, if you're running Cloud PCs, you can of course enroll them into the Vham endpoint, and that's something that's a minimum, right? You need to have that. The other thing is there's just so many topics that you can take a look of, and what we usually try to explain is, it doesn't matter where you're starting in AVD or Cloud PCs, but have a look at those security baselines, right? Security baseline is a group of policies, settings, if you will, and they optimize the security for a specific product. So there's one for Windows 11 out there. There's one for Edge, of course, as an internet browser, and then there's the M365 ones, etc. So Microsoft maintains a couple of those security baselines. And what I personally really like is they're really well documented on Microsoft Learn, even with previous baselines. but you don't per se need to use a Microsoft security baseline. You can also use the CAS one or other ones as well. And once you got that in place, you can still have a look at all of the additional security features that you can use. That can be anything from screen capture recording, watermarking. We have directional clipboard. Nowadays, we have context-based redirections, which I really like. That actually, and that works for Windows 365 and AVD. But how cool is it that if you have like a virtual desktop and you connect from it from a corporate-owned device which is compliant, then you have access to the clipboard, to your local drives, to all of the good stuff, printers and such, USB devices. But if you're connecting from it from a personally owned device, which is not compliant, or like a shared device and that's not compliant, then those redirections don't work. And that just really increases that security for your data, of course. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that you can take care of. If you're going the way of AVD, then of course you need to have a really good look at all of the security things because it's a platform. You need to secure that platform accordingly. If you go the way of privacies, there you can make your life a bit more easy because it is just it's not fully secure by design. It's pretty secure by design, but there's less things to think about or to worry about.
Mm.
Would
Yeah,
you
well, sorry, go ahead.
would you agree, Dieter?
Yeah, I was about to say with AVD and Windows 365, security is very important. And if you look at all the pieces of the puzzle that are available with Entra, conditional access, with networking and stuff like that, also with all the Intune policies that you can push your GPO settings for that matter, it's all very similar. You can do most of the security things on both platforms. If you look at Cloud PCs with Microsoft hosted network, Microsoft deploys them for you, they manage them for you, so security is important. So if you deploy them in a network there, they won't be able to connect or talk with other Cloud PCs. Microsoft is all tied down. While if you deploy it on AVD, networking wise, you are responsible for how you route your traffic yourself, of course.
Mm. And another topic, especially when we talk about AVD, we have this automation and infrastructure as code topic. So I think one of the biggest fights are Bicep, Terraform, and ARM, but also like Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions, PowerShell, Graph API, and so on. And I think there are more words. How does this compare to the Windows 365?
The fun part is I was working with a customer who had the infrastructure as code part as a heavy requirement. And they looked at AVD and Windows 365 and they went with Windows 365. So why is that? With AVD, they had to like provide code for the whole infrastructure, while with Windows 365, they only had to provide infrastructure as code for adding users to the group. So it's not comparable one-on-one because like with Windows 365, you had to do the initial setup, of course. And if you just create a full infrastructure and only rely on infrastructure as code to add users to a group, it works, in my opinion, for both Windows 365 as AVD. If you're heavily invested in Terraform, I see more customers choosing AVD. But it's like a one-time investment that you have to make. If the infrastructure as code part is that important for you, yes, you can go with AVD. And it has limited options within Windows 365. Yes.
I kind of like the idea of, how you're going to deploy an environment like that, because you can either go with AVD just using the portal, that's, to me, that's a one-off for a proof of concepts, pilots and such. But if you can deploy it for production, then you probably want to have it typed out, written down. If something happens, just redeploy it and it's just up and running. And it is what it is. But there's a downside, that code changes over time. It needs to be well maintained. And it's a specialized thing to do, right? It requires up-to-date knowledge and keeping the things running.
Yes.
But we're living in an EUC world at this point. There are so many cool things that you can do. I had the honor of not only being MVP, but also a Nerdio MVP. So I would be reminiscent if I wouldn't, touch base on Nerdio. The thing that I really like by Nerdio is that they still provide that portal-based approach. So keep things simple for your customer teams, the people who actually manage the environment, but it still uses infrastructure as code at the back end. So it deploys everything, but still keeps everything really simple. So there are a couple of things, especially for AVD, if you're going that way, I really would prefer infrastructure as code or implement something like Nerdium.
Yeah, and if you look at building all the stuff yourself, I have more experience with Bicep than I have with Terraform. I know that Terraform nowadays has more options when using Graph, Microsoft Graph, than Bicep has, but everything you do in the Intune portal with you can do that with Graph as well. So you can build your own code. It's just that if you're looking at pre-built modules, you will find more for AVD out of the box.
Yeah, and ARM is that.
Yeah, ARM in the backend. So
yeah.
Another topic I think companies think about is, especially in this space when they look at both, it's monitoring and optimization. So we have the CPU, RAM, disk, and so on topics. I don't know how it works if I can look at the task manager on my Windows 365. I don't know. I do on my PC. I do it. I look there. But how does it work on both sides?
Well, if you look at AVD, right, there's some good reporting that you can actually see what's happening using AVD Insights and the monitoring tool. So yeah, as an admin, you do have some good controls out there to get those access to those performance indicators. Windows 365 as well. Then you just leave the AVD Insights behind and you move over to the Intune portal. I really love that Microsoft updated that monitoring reporting overview. So there's a lot of good stuff that you can get access to, even with physical PCs or cloud PCs. You can just drill into that object and get really good performance metrics from that system, boot metrics, etc. I really also like that the Intune portal also tells you if you're right sizing. Is the PC too heavily used? Is it impacting the performance so the user actually notices it? Especially in the world of cloud PCs, which you preferably hand out a cloud PC with more performance, or even better, is the user overutilized? That they could actually downscale, or aren't they using the cloud PC at all? And that's, companies, they don't like to spend money if they don't need to. So if you dish out a cloud PC to a user, then they're using it for a year, then that's a cost that's unnecessary. And the Intune portal just tells you that. There's also a lot of really good EUC products out there who will actually dive into those same metrics and surface those metrics for you as an admin as well.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like the Windows monitoring report that's available now, it was something that was missing from Windows 365 that was available in AVD with Insights. So yeah, Microsoft is making good progress there in putting those heavily requested features from AVD towards Windows 365, of course. Yes.
Yeah. On every podcast, I have a rapid fire round. So that's I say a short sentence and you give a short answer. I think we start with Dieter and then Dominic to every question. So it's okay. Okay. Windows 365 or R4D when you only can choose one?
Windows 365.
Windows 365.
Oh, okay. That's clear. What's your favorite Azure service?
AVD.
AVD! This is nice.
Most underrated Microsoft feature?
Ooh, screenshot protection, I think.
Azure Private Access.
What?
Yeah.
What's the best productivity tip you have?
It's not one size that fits all. So choose before you buy?
And for me, if it's pure productivity and not per se related to Cloud PC or AVD, then for me, it's email optimization. I'm only looking at 4 moments during the day at email, and the rest I'm just actively working, and that's a really time saver for me.
I couldn't answer that question because I'm very Catholic.
What's the most common customer mistake you see?
There are a lot. Ooh.
Shall I go first this time?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the most common one that I see is primarily I work with Windows 365 Intune and such. So what I usually see is, we got like a filter, and then all of the assignments, they get a filter assigned to it, and that's not per se the best way to assign either your applications or your device configuration profiles or compliance policies. So if you need to deploy something new like Windows 365, then you need to go through all of these assignments and optimize them. So a filter, it really comes in handy, but you can only assign it once per assignment. So if you need to, filter out something else, then it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I think in general, when you talk about these platforms and then preventing mistakes, it's important that you discuss all the possible options with the customer before you start any deployment. If they start out by themselves, I often see them choosing like a wrong SKU or wrong VM size, have to change it afterwards, or are not familiar with all the different features there are and just start deploying without thinking first.
When you are on the next MVP summit and Satya and Dalia come to you and say, hey, you are so cool guys, I give you all the resources and money you need, what feature will you build?
That's a good one.
I think the answer would be somewhere with something with AI.
That's so tough to answer because there are so many things that Microsoft has developed on either on Intune, that relates to Windows 365, either on security, NI enablement on Cloud PCs as well. I think my answer would be, I really like the experience that iPhones have. If you just have imagine you just have like a cell phone, a smartphone, and just use the USB port and connect that one to a monitor, and then being able to have good performance and good resolution to your Cloud PC. Then you don't need a laptop anymore. You don't need a tablet anymore. This thing that everyone already has, you can actually use. iPhone already has a really good experience. Android, the Samsungs, they got like DeX, but it's still really restricted. I would personally prefer it if the Android experience got on par with iPhone, and then this is all the device that you need.
Yes, and Microsoft they built such a solution already with, I think it was Lenovo, but I have not seen one of those devices.
Was it the Motorola?
Of Motorola.
Yeah. And that was really built in as a core functionality to that device specifically. But most of it's not commercialized, but one of the big ones is Samsung, of course. But I really love to see something integration with Android, so that really good integration and good user experience just extends to all of the Android devices.
Yeah, I really like that idea, and I have like colleagues that are using like Cloud PCs as well that are asking for those features as well, or that feature. I think one big challenge there we need to solve is if you're working at the desk 24/7, it's very easy to use your phone connected to a USB-C cable and connect a keyboard and a mouse. But if you're moving from meeting room to meeting room and you have to take all your notes on the small screen, it's a different user experience, I think. We now have a facilitator for that, of course, but still.
Okay. So you get an invite from Jamie Hayman and Adam Savage from the Mythbusters to their show, to two shows. So the first one is which myth about AVD will you destroy?
Which what for AVD?
Which myth will you destroy?
That it's not that complex as a lot of people think. It's a very fun thing. AVD is always niche, but VDI in general is niche, but it's if you start working with it, it's a very fun thing to do. Yeah.
Oh, I wish I had a good one. I'm drawing a blank here.
Okay, at the second show, it's about Windows 365. What myth can be there busted?
I think most importantly, the price, of course. You have to just look at the use cases and you have to give it a fair chance. I often suggest to customers, because you can set it up so easily, just deploy it, test it out yourself, look at what it costs you. And if it doesn't work for you, fine, go with AVD, but then at least you can apply the fail fast principle. But cost is always a big discussion with Windows 365 because people look at the license cost without realizing all the things they save in the backend.
And I think my answer would be something that relates to that. I think the myth that I would like to see busted is one or the other actually more expensive? And then I would just draw in, the Citrix and the Omnissa things as well, and just see if Windows 365 is really as expensive as people think that it is. Because I don't really think that it's expensive if you take in account all the right things that need to be taken into account.
And what was the best conference you ever attend?
Ooh, I really liked the first time I went to Ignite. I really liked it. It's a lot of people say it's for sales, but also for networking purposes. A lot of product group people there. And from a community perspective, all the experts live and workplace ninjas are equally awesome.
Yeah, best conferences. I really enjoyed the MVP Summit, of course, but that's limited to MVPs. I had I attended NerdUcon a couple of times, and those events are crazy. They really are crazy. Beautiful venues, amazing people. There's so many experts running around there just to have a chat with. And again, I agree fully with Dieter on community stuff. Expos Live, Workplace Ninjas, those are amazing to be a part of. Yeah.
And one MVP everyone should follow.
It depends on the technical things you're looking for. I think technical within Intune, I like the stuff really Ohms publishes, of course. For AVD, I also like Neil McLaughlin, his videos. Steve Weiner is doing a very good job as well with his Intune videos. So you can pick one of those already.
Yeah, I hate to be a buzzkill, but those are really big names. So if I were to add on that, with AI, that's Yannick Reinhardt, of course. So yeah, those are really great names out there. Travis Roberts is just a really great mind. Ash Sakari, of course. So many cool people. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so also two MVPs you can follow. It's in the show notes, Dieter and Dominic. So you find the profiles there.
Awesome, thank you.
And yeah, there's also my closing question is if listeners remember one thing from today's conversation, what should it be?
It's not one or the other.
I really like that one. Yeah, it's use the correct solution for your personal business case. Approach it with an open mind. Don't get into too many technical complicalities, but review it and make the correct choice.
Yes, and people want to get rid of that VPN solution. Look at VDI. It's a really good solution to that problem.
Yeah, then Dieter and Dominic, thank you both for joining the show. This was been one of the most comprehensive discussion we had around Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365, from architecture, security, automation, and with AI. Yes, AI is everywhere, and the future of end user computing. So I think we have to make a new session with the security topic, so we can have an hour for this. And yeah, so I say, if you are an IT architect, consult, or decision maker planning your virtual desktop strategy, I hope today's conversion gave you a practical guidance you can apply immediately. And yeah, I'm also happy for all the people that subscribe to the podcast. This helps me a lot, and leave a review. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.